Welcome to another Infographic Instant with Brian Michael. In this episode, we're going to be asking how much money could solar industry financial advisors earn in the wider Asian region. To give some background, this infographic is from a paper which looks at the role financial centers and banks can play in the development of China's solar industry. So particularly, we first look at the development, the expected development of China's solar industry. We look at the market size of the photovoltaic industry. And from that expected size, we can estimate how much money needs to be raised in order to fund these solar panel companies. And once we know how much money needs to be raised, we know roughly the impact on financial institutions, particularly those operating in Hong Kong. We can estimate how much equity they have to raise, we know how many loans they have to give, and so forth. Thus, we use the solar industry as a model for understanding how the development of a new technology can impact on the development of a financial sector. So, turning our attention now to the infographic, this infographic you see in front of you looks at electricity usage across Asia. And in this infographic, we're trying to step back and look not only at the potential market size for solar energy in China, but also for the wider Asian region. Because companies that can help generate electricity to the wider Asian region will, of course, earn more money, and so will their bankers. So there's two ways of looking at this infographic. You can see the light spots as the market opportunity, or you can see the dark spots as the potential market opportunity. Looking at the light spots, we see that there's a high amount of electricity usage in the eastern part of China, across most of India, across the western shores of Malaysia, southern shores of Indonesia, and of course all along South Korea and Japan. So one view of this industry would be to say that the market opportunity lies in solar electricity replacing existing coal, oil, nuclear power generation, and that is where the revenue will come. The second view of this infographic might be to say, well, in fact, it's the dark spots of the infographic that hold the most market opportunity for solar electricity. Well, we know that if these markets in Myanmar, Vietnam, to a much lesser extent in Thailand, if these, certainly Borneo, to a lesser extent the Philippines, if these markets had the possibility of high spread electricity penetration, then they would have already achieved it. But the fact that they don't have these light spots covering their geography, just by looking at the infographic, that suggests that there is an opportunity for a new technology to come in and generate the electricity needed in order to supply these markets. Thus, it is exactly these dark spots which hold the greatest potential opportunity for both the sale of solar panels and their operation in order to generate electricity. In the next infographic, we're going to be looking at markets not in terms of electricity usage across geography, but we're going to be estimating market sizes across national borders in order to assess how these light dots and dark spots play out in order to generate revenues for solar power providers and for their bankers. Welcome to the second half of this infographic instant. In the last episode, we looked at the dispersion of market opportunities in the solar electricity field across Asia. In this infographic, we'll be looking at the potential market opportunity across various jurisdictions. Turning our attention to the infographic you see in front of you, we have estimated the expected revenue from solar investments in Hong Kong's catchment area. And we call it the catchment area because these are the jurisdictions that will most likely interact with Hong Kong's financial institutions in the future. So turning our attention now to the infographic, we see roughly 3 groups of countries where revenue will be generated from photovoltaic electricity production in the future. We estimate a $470 billion market opportunity for such electricity generation in China, followed by a much lesser revenue generation in Russia of roughly $85 billion, and India at roughly $60 billion. And you can see the footnotes where we describe the methodology we used to come up with these figures. The second group of countries has market opportunities in order of magnitude less than this first group. So if the first group had expected revenue in the hundreds of billions, or slightly less, looking at 85 and 60, the second group of countries has market opportunities ranging in roughly the 1 billion range. And that, of course, is Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. These are particularly Indonesia and Vietnam, and to a lesser extent Malaysia. Those were the black spots on the previous infographic, whereas in the first group of countries, India, China, to a much lesser extent Russia, those were the white spots on the previous infographic. Turning our attention to the third group of countries, namely the Philippines and Hong Kong, those market opportunities are roughly $540 and $430 million in expected revenue over the time period. And that simply reflects the relatively small size of these markets. Hong Kong because of its small population, and Philippines because of its relatively underdeveloped macroeconomy at present. So we see roughly 3 groups of countries. If we combine the potential revenue generating opportunities in these markets, it's easily over $500 billion, with the lion's share of that coming from China. And so that suggests that for clever financial institutions that are able to lend the money to these solar companies in order to bring this electricity online, they will see their commissions, they will see their interest revenue, they will see other revenues coming in to their coffers from providing the money, the shares, the stocks, the asset-backed securities that are used to bring this electricity online. This has been another Infographic Instant with Brian Michael.